All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, along with my friend Matt Naraki, the one and only Matt Naraki in the house. You'll hear from him in just a moment. Hey, welcome to all of you online people. We're glad you're with us tonight. We're glad you're part of this community. My daughter, Selah, because my wife, Tammy, is actually in the cafe because Amy's out tonight. Noelle's out tonight. Selah is working all the online comments, so be nice. Way to go, Selah. All right, to give you all a reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there is always one thing we do not do. Y'all can shout it out, all four words, in the count of three. If you don't know it, you're going to know it really soon. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame in this community, but Matt. Oh, by the way, so we're in this 5-week series on Rooted. Matt will be closing this series, giving us a message on the power of recovering out loud and why that's so essential. So that'll be in at the end of September 30th.
September 30th, I'll be closing it down.
Closing it down.
Like the relief pitcher that comes in the 9th inning.
Come in strong, man. We need you to come in strong.
Yeah.
All right, tell us some things that are happening.
All right, we got a couple announcements to start out the night with. The first one is Sober Open Mic Night. This coming Thursday. Yes. Guys, I got to say something to you guys. If you haven't seen Open Mic Night, Sober Open Mic Night, this isn't just like someone, these are great talent out there. And so this week, Thursday, we already have the 12 performers. We just need the audience, you know. This is like our American Idol, you know. You guys can be like the...
No, we do cheering here. We do. There's 2 spots open, so if you want to perform, 2 spots open, Darren is telling us.
I didn't know there's 2 spots open. If I was a rich man,
2 spots open for other people.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. So that's this Thursday at 7 p.m. Come out and let's cheer these guys on.
And let me say a word about Sober Open Mic Night. We do these on a regular basis. We partner with the Phoenix, so we host these events together. We have great sponsors, CARE, Colorado Artists in Recovery, and Sparrow Recovery, who sponsor these events, and we're really grateful for them. And y'all, it's a fun night, so come and support them. The cafe will be open to get your coffee on and beverages, whatever you want.
Second announcement.
Yes, second announcement.
New meetings that are happening here at Free. If we look up here, it's the first one is Feeling is Healing. It's an open ACA book study on Saturdays from 1 to 2:15. Does everyone know what ACA stands for?
Do tell us.
The Adult Children of Alcoholics. And they're going to be meeting on Saturdays. And then we also have a woman's meditation meeting. It's an open AA 11-step meeting on Tuesdays from 1 to 2. This is a new, exciting. The meditation meetings seem to be coming in, and you know, the yoga infused and meditation. It's we need come it. And check it out, women.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. You know, if you want to stay involved with the schedule, because it's constantly like adding around here. I think we have it's well over 25 groups now, but it's all on the website, freespiritualcommunity.com. You can check out the meeting schedule there. Thank you, Matt. Oh, look at that. We're going to clap for him. All right, y'all, if you're new with us tonight, you should know that the way we get started is by celebrating together. We call these celebrations a very important part of our time together. We lift up the good. We start with the good. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We just save it for later. But we start with celebrating. We believe that God joins with us in the celebrations. And so this is 3 minutes for you to lift up the celebration. Maybe it's a sobriety anniversary, a birthday, the new thing happening in recovery, new babies, new jobs, new homes, whatever it is, we want to celebrate it with you. If you're online, just drop your celebrations in the Facebook comments or YouTube comments, whichever platform you're joining us from, and we will celebrate with you there. So let's take 3 minutes. This time is y'all's.
Hi, I'm Heidi, and I just want to congratulate my friend Teresa on 10 months on the 6th.
Way to go, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm
Oh,
John.
okay.
Hi, I'm John, and I've got 14 days sober today.
14 days sober. Way to go, John. Glad you're here. That's big.
So I started a new job. I'm working at Crew Sober Living as the house manager. I'm really excited. And thank you.
Yeah, that's the new thing.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I've got 95 days sober. I brought 4 friends to church with me.
All right.
Woo! And I got 2 new jobs.
Wow, that really is new. Congratulations, Sarah.
I'm Kai, and on Wednesday I'll have 6 months free of fentanyl.
Way to go, Kai.
I'm Blake. I got 69 days today.
All right, congratulations.
I'm Danielle, and I got 18 days sober today.
Way to go, Danielle.
My name is Derek, and the gift of recovery the last few weeks gave me my daughter back in my life.
Way to go, dude. Congratulations, Derek.
Otis alcoholic. I did 30 years of drinking and drugging. I've got a little over 2 years.
Way to go, Otis. Congratulations, buddy.
My name's Shayna. I had 18 months sober last week.
All right, Shayna. Congratulations.
My name is Melanie. I have 4 months sober, and I start a new job Monday.
All right, congratulations.
I'm Chase, and the 4th was my first year, like, fully of sobriety.
All right.
I'm Kevin. I got 88 days sober today.
All right, way to go, Kevin.
I'm Matt, and in 10 days, I as well will have 6 months free from fentanyl.
All right. The 6-month club.
I'm Riley, and by the grace of God, I celebrated my 36th birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Riley.
One more. Come on now.
10 seconds. 10, 9. Who's going to take it? Front row.
My name's Kevin, and I'm still alive. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll celebrate that. You want to join me up here?
Yeah, and I wanted to celebrate what, we feel hopeless sometimes, but I'm celebrating the Detroit Lions beating the Kansas City Chiefs to 21-20. The only Lions fan.
That one win this season is going to really carry them, Man, the Buffaloes won today, too. Colorado Buffaloes? Come on.
Real deal.
Look at us. You think this is a sports club. All right, Matt, we're going to join with our online people here. You want to take the first one?
Shemaiah Lacole Risali. I've been 3 years clean on August 17th. Thank you, Jesus, and the free spiritual community. We celebrate with you. Amen.
All right, we have Monica. She says, I just made my 5 months drug-free on Thursday. Congratulations, Monica.
Monica.
Way to go.
John Wagner says, 2 weeks, I ran my first Hood to Coast. It's a 200-mile relay race from Mount Hood to Seaside, Oregon. Unbelievable.
Dang. Way to go, John.
Way to go, John.
You should do that sometime. Lance says, I would like to celebrate the marriage of my daughter, Lauren, to Jake Petrano. That word. Beautiful couple. We love you. Congratulations, Lance and family.
That's awesome. Amber says, I am 68 days sober. Woo! Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God. Way to go, Amber. Tara Mistracchio says, last week I celebrated 32 years sober, included weekends and holidays. Good to know. I'm so humbled and grateful for this unmerited gift. Congratulations,
Awesome,
Tara. Happy birthday.
James Ashley says, I am 45 days clean. free for giving me somewhere to celebrate my sobriety.
Yeah,
Awesome,
dude. Way to go, James. Proud of you, dude. Thank you, Matt, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for the energy you carry. And I can't tell you all how important it is. I know if you're like involved in 12-step meetings, you're like, well, this is nothing new. We clap for people all the time. But there's people joining us online that are new to that. And so to have people cheering them on publicly is a big deal. So thank you for joining in that and being part of it. It's so important to raise up those celebrations to show people that new things are possible, that there is new life. So again, thank you for being a part of that. Yeah, we're going to clap again? Man, we're a clapping crowd tonight. All right, y'all. We are in this 5-week series called Rooted. Last week we talked about, it was the first week, we talked about the seasons that you encounter and how to stay rooted when it feels like your life is being uprooted. Tonight the topic is fear, then next week forgiveness, and then the week after that is like self-worth and how to drop some of the baggage maybe you've been carrying. And then that last week, Matt's going to bring the message and a very powerful guest storyteller. We'll say more about that later, but on the importance of living out loud, recovering out loud in your recovery. So it's a good series. I'm glad y'all are with us. Tonight, it is fear. So one day, a wise Zen master went to visit a remote mountain temple, accompanied by a monk in training. And as they approached this mountain temple, 2 very ferocious dogs came running out towards them. They were angry. They were barking. And the monk says to the master, "Quick, run for your life." And so the monk turns around and he runs away. The master, the Zen master, did the exact opposite. He threw his arms in the air, flailing his arms. He's yelling and screaming, and he runs directly towards those ferocious dogs. And the dogs get so afraid, they turn and run away. And the monk says to the master, "Master, I mean, how'd you do that? Weren't you afraid of what these dogs might do to you?" And the master replied, he said, "Of course I was. But the only way to overcome fear is to run directly towards it. If we run away, our fears will consume us." You see, my brothers and sisters, are you rooted in running away from your fears or towards your fears? If you are running away from your fears, are those fears consuming you? You see, what are you most afraid of? You know, research tells us that we have 2 very innate fears. Fears that we're born with. You can see them at an early age, as early as 6 months old. They tell us that the first fear is the fear of falling. The second innate fear that everyone is born with is the fear of loud sounds. Makes sense to me. Now, they also tell us that we have all kinds of learned fears, fears that we learn along the way. They develop also at an early age, but they're then influenced by culture and environment. So we learn to be afraid of things like snakes and spiders and the dark. And my guess is for most of you here tonight, none of those fears that I just mentioned have in any way made your life unmanageable. You see, but what are you most afraid of? What are the fears that keep you up at night? What are the fears that keep you from moving forward in your life? What are the fears that keep you living in unhealthy patterns of behavior? So we could probably list a whole host of fears and be here all night, but let's have a starting place. Let's just address a few. How about the fear of loneliness? Anyone been there? You're so afraid of being alone. So what do? You stay in that unhealthy relationship no matter how much harm it's causing you. Or maybe you're the one that jumps from unhealthy relationship to unhealthy relationship because you are not going to be alone. It's your greatest fear. Or how about this one, the fear of failure? Whew, that's a big one, isn't it? Man, you don't want to fail because that could make you look dumb. It's embarrassing to fail. So what do? You just stay clinging to your comfort zone where you are safe and secure. You know exactly how to do it. Even though you're miserable, you are never going to take new steps in life because you have a fear of failure. Or how about this one? Fear of disappointment. What happens if I disappoint the people that I love most? What happens if I disappoint absolute strangers? Will people still want me? And so how do you live your life? You go deeper into your perfectionism, because if you can make your outside life look perfect, then you think to yourself, I'm never going to disappoint anyone. Or how about its closely related cousin, the fear of rejection? Woo, yes, some of you have been rejected. You know rejection. And so how do you live your life now? You're not going to be rejected. So how do you live in your relationships? You just keep an arm distance. You're never going to really give yourself. You lived with a closed heart, and you don't let people in. And you say vulnerability? Not a chance. I ain't doing it. Stop talking about vulnerability. I ain't going to do it. That could hurt me. I could get rejected. Or how about the fear of the future? Yeah, the thing you can't control. And yet you are going to spin stories up here about everything that might go wrong. What if? What if? What if? And then you start to spin out. And y'all, what I know is loneliness, disappointment, failure, rejection, the fear of the future, and of course many other fears. These fears can make your life unmanageable. And see, what is the thing you are most afraid of? And are you rooted in running towards your fear or away from your fear? And if you're running away, is that fear consuming you? And let's just speak honestly for a moment. The problem isn't really fear, is it? I mean, the problem is when those fears start to consume you. I mean, what do you do with those fears? And if you identify as an addict or an alcoholic, like myself, how many times did fear drive us deeper into our addiction? That fear completely consumed us. And what I can tell y'all is when I was active in my addiction, living as an active alcoholic, all of those fears consumed me. Loneliness, failure, rejection, disappointment, fear of the future. Do you know after my brother was killed in a car accident, I was 18 years old, almost 19. He battled addiction. Addict, alcoholic. He got into recovery, relapsed, got behind the wheel of a car. He was the drunk driver and died in that accident. And do you know what people said to me after the funeral? They would look at me, or they would say it to me or other people. They'd say, man, he's so strong. I mean, Ryan was able to lead a big part of that funeral, and he didn't even cry, and he's so strong. I mean, look at his faith. It's so strong. And inside I'm thinking, man, what's going to happen when you find out about me? What if you actually find out that my faith isn't strong? This God you think I'm clinging to, I want nothing to do with that God. I don't trust that God. That God abandoned me. Now, what if you find out I'm not actually strong, I'm weak, and I'm falling apart? Are you still going to want me? And y'all, I learned at that time in my life how to calm that voice of fear. Just pick up a drink. Give me a drink. Man, our greatest fears? Our greatest fears? Yeah, I remember having that fear as an active alcoholic and being a pastor at the same time. And not just the fear of what if people find out about my drinking. I mean, of course that was there, but this fear of what if they hear me stand in front of them and preach about a God who loves everybody, no matter what, even people with a past, and they actually find out I believe that's true for you, but I don't believe it's true for me. And I know how to calm that voice of fear. Just give me a drink. I know how to subdue that voice. Man, my greatest fears, I remember finding out that I was going to be a pops for the first time. Tammy, my wife, was pregnant. I'm going to be a father. And part of me was really excited. I get to be a father. And then the voice of fear creeps up and says, Ryan, what are you excited about, man? You are a failure. You're going to screw this thing up. You can't do this. And I just hold my daughter and take another drink. And do you all see how all of these fears are almost always rooted in your unworthiness? You're not enough. You see, I remember some days I would wake up with that brutal hangover. Y'all know how it is. A brutal hangover from a blackout night of drinking. And you know what my first thought would be? My first thought was, who do I need to call? Who do I disappoint? Who do I need to make sure I'm still good with because I can't remember anything? Hello? Yeah, I don't know what happened. I never get that drunk. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was dehydrated. I didn't have enough water. Or we're at elevation and I'm not used to that because I'm from Missouri and I'm just not acclimated. I'm not used to that. Liquor that you brought over, lie. Are we good? Are we good? Who'd I disappoint? How do you deal with that? Just take another drink. Do the same thing over again. And do you know what the real kicker is? The real kicker is 10 years into sobriety, 10 years sober, 10 years in working my recovery. Still, on my unhealthiest days, you might say on those days where I'm not spiritually fit, still, that fear can creep up. Do you know I can be woken out of a dead sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning on my unhealthiest days, and my first thought, like overwhelming thought, overwhelming fear, out of nowhere, who'd I disappoint? Who'd I disappoint today? Who do I need to call and hustle my worth to? Who do I need to prove my belonging to? But what I can tell you is today, I can actually face that fear. I actually have tools to deal with that fear. And thanks be to God, I do not have to pick up a drink in the face of that fear. But see, the problem isn't fear. The problem is when you are consumed by fear, when it takes you. And you know what's always been interesting to me? The phrase fear not or don't be afraid is mentioned over 300 times in the scriptures, Old Testament and New Testament. 300 times tells me it's a pretty important theme. And the thing about it is when this phrase comes up, fear not or do not be afraid, it's always at the most inconvenient times. It is when we should be most afraid. It's when the people in the story should be most afraid. Like in the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible, the book of Joshua. Anyone heard of Joshua? Yeah, Joshua was a significant leader. Joshua came right after Moses. You remember Moses? We talked a little bit about Moses last week. Remember, Moses was called by God to go into Egypt and rescue the people from slavery, lead his people out of Egypt into a new land, which was called the Promised Land. So Moses leads the people out. And instead of making it to the Promised Land quickly, they spend years wandering around in the wilderness, wandering around in their lostness. And well, Moses got old, and old people die. And so a new leader comes raising up. His name is Joshua. I encourage you to read Joshua chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1 is essentially this conversation between God and Joshua where God is saying to Joshua, look, Joshua, here's what you need to know, man. There are some people who are against y'all. There's like some tribalism going on. They're fighting for territory, and they want to see you guys non-existent. So you are about to enter into the battle of your lifetime. And here's the thing, Joshua. When you enter into battle, what do you think God says? Don't be afraid, which is stunning, right? Because how does fear work? Fear always tells us you're going to die. You're just going to die. And Joshua's probably thinking, you're telling me I'm going to enter into the battle of my lifetime, and I think I'm going to die, and your good news for me is not to be afraid? The text says it this way, Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. And see, maybe it feels like for you, you are going into battle, and yet you hear God's voice saying to you, don't be afraid. And you're like, God, do you see what I'm about to go into? Do you see what's happening here? Or maybe you are in battle with whatever it is in your life. The thing you are fearing, the thing you are struggling with, and you're in battle, and yet you're hearing God's still small voice say to you, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And you're like, God, do you see what's just happened to me? Do you see what's happening here? And here's the deal. Here's what I hope you hold on to. God doesn't say in that text, don't feel afraid. God says, don't be afraid. And there's a difference, isn't there? Because see, feelings are there. Feelings just are. Deal with the feelings. Feel the feels. But being is different. Being is when that thing consumes you, it becomes you, it determines your next steps in life, it determines how you're actually going to live. God doesn't say don't feel afraid, God says don't be afraid. And do you know what else was dropped on Joshua in that conversation? The same verse, the end of the verse. God says, don't lose hope. Wherever you go, I am going to go with you. The text says it this way: do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. You see, my brothers and sisters, in the moments of your greatest fear, do you believe that God goes with you? You see, fear isn't the problem, is it? The problem is, are you being consumed by your fears? What roots are you deepening in your recovery? Are you rooted and running towards your fear or away from your fear? And if you're running away from your fear, is that fear consuming you? You know, it's fascinating to me that studies show that we can overcome fear by continually facing that fear. In fact, the experts tell us that when you encounter fear, there are two roadways for your brain. Hang with me because this is absolutely fascinating. The first roadway, they say, it's called the low road, and the low road represents your brain's sensory systems in the brain's amygdala. Now, it sends signals to the brain that this is something to fear, and the adrenaline is released, and it tells your heart to race faster. It tells your body to sweat. It tells you to turn around and run the other way, run away. And then there's what they call the second road, the high road. The high road reaction goes through your higher cortical center in your brain. Now, the high road says, wait a minute, I know what this is like. I've been here before. I need to breathe. I need to pause. I need to invite God in. It's the reasoning response that overrides the low road. Does it make sense? Some of y'all know all sorts of things about the low road and the high road. Is it true? Do you know the very first time I said the words out loud, I'm Ryan and I'm an alcoholic. Man, I remember walking into that meeting, my very first 12-step meeting, and man, the low road, it was so loud. That voice was so loud. It was saying to me, Ryan, you don't have to do this. Dude, don't do this. You're going to go in there, you might die. Ryan, don't do it. What you need to do is just think through it more. You can think your way out of this mess. What you need is more self-discipline. What you need is more self-will. Don't go in there, you might die. Well, guess what? I went into that meeting, and I'm still here breathing today. I didn't die. Man, the low road was loud, though. And do you know, 3 years later, when I decided to go public with my story of being a drunk pastor, a pastor and an alcoholic, now in recovery, from the pulpit on a Sunday morning, and I'm walking into the church that morning, man, the low road, it was really loud voice. It says, Ryan, don't do this, man. No one's forcing you to do this. Preach on something else this morning. I mean, Ryan, you might disappoint people. They might see you as a failure. You can't predict how the outcome is going to go. What if? And then the high road speaks up. And the high road says, no, Ryan, you've been here before. Man, you know what this is like. You've considered all that. You've faced this fear. You need to pause. You need to breathe. You need to invite God in, and you need to face this fear. You see, we have to create new neural pathways in our brain so that we're not constantly freaking out all the time and running away from our fears. How do we create new neural pathways in our brain? Science tells us this is possible through practice. It's when you do it enough times over and over again, remember the habit series, to where this practice becomes a habit in your life, to be in the habit of facing your fears. You see, how do we run towards our fears so that we can actually overcome those fears? Well, we name them. We put words to them. We say them out loud. We invite God to go with us. Then those fears have a way of backing down just a bit. Is it true? The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous gives us a great practice for doing this. It's found on page 68. I want to read with you just a few lines from it. They wrote, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. Important word, thoroughly. We put them on paper. Even though we had no resentment connection with them, we asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. And y'all, when we trust in the thing that is bigger than us, the calamity is all of a sudden met with what? Serenity. A beautiful thing that happens. You know, just last week I was having a conversation with Carrie McMullen. Many of you know Carrie. She's our community ambassador here at Free. And I was driving home. I was talking to her on the phone, and I was getting her input and ideas on a couple of different projects we're working on. And she gave like tremendous insight, tremendous ideas and input. And then she says to me, she says, Ryan, just tell me if I'm ever too much. And I thought, well, that's a strange thing to say. I said, Carrie, did something happen I'm not aware of? I mean, do you feel like you're being too much? And she said, no, it's not that. It's you just need to tell me if I'm ever too much, before you get a resentment towards me. And I thought, wow, this is really fascinating. And I said to Carrie, I said, I mean, do you have a history of people telling you you're too much or you being too much? And she says, no, it's not that. It's just that my greatest fear is that one day you all are going to find out that I don't really belong. Like y'all know Carrie. She belongs totally and completely. And in that moment I thought, wow, what a brave move. I mean, what a brave move to say that fear out loud, to put words to it, to face that fear so that you actually have a chance of overcoming that fear, to run towards it, to feel afraid, but to not be afraid. You see, for those of you being afraid right now, battling fear right now, what do you do with it? How do you run towards it? So I'll close with leaving you 4 very simple suggestions. And the first one is this: pause. You do know pausing can be a spiritual experience, right? Pause, take a deep breath, remind fear that you've been here before. You know what this is like. You have faced this before. And second, put your fears on paper. Yeah, put words to them, articulate them, get them out, because if your fears just stay in here, I promise you, you will live in a jumbled mess and you will remain stuck in that fear. Get the fear out, put words to it. Which leads to the third one. Speak your fears out loud to another person. Yeah, say them out loud to another person whom you trust. Maybe that's a close friend, a confidant, maybe it's your sponsor. Say them out loud, because what happens when you say your fears out loud, it has a way of robbing fear of its power over you. And then number 4, a very important one. Talk to your fears. Have a conversation with them, because the thing about your fears is they are usually not very interesting. Because fear, it's like a broken record, isn't it? It's just stuck on repeat. What does fear say? Fear says you're not good enough to do this. Everything could fall apart. You could look stupid. You could lose money on this. You better run the other way. Fear thinks it's an original voice, and yet it very rarely has anything new to say. So what do you say to your fears? When you encounter fear, you look at fear and you say, I know. Yeah. Now, Ryan, don't make that amends, because it could go wrong. It could fall apart. I know. Oh, no. Now, Ryan, don't start free. You're comfortable. You're safe and secure where you are. You could start this new thing and the whole thing could totally fall apart. I know. Now, Ryan, don't get vulnerable with people, because people, they can turn on you. People can wound you. People can betray you. I know. Do you see how saying I know to fear, it's like the judo move? Because you're saying to fear, you're saying, I've already thought about all that. I've already considered it. I'm well aware of what could happen, and I'm still going in. I'm still running towards my fear. You see, my brothers and sisters, even though you have gotten sober, you are in recovery, you will still encounter fear. You might encounter the big ones, the fear of loneliness, failure, disappointment, rejection, fear of the future. Don't run from these fears. Instead, run towards them. Go deeper into them, because today in your recovery, you don't have to fall apart. You don't have to let that fear consume you. Today, you can feel afraid, but you don't have to be afraid. So what we're going to do now is hear one of my very favorite songs by one of my very favorite singer-songwriters. His name is Justin Furstenfeld. Man, he wrote a beautiful song called Fear. When I get stuck into fear, I play this song on repeat. Justin Furstenfeld has been in recovery and sober for many years, I think 13 years now. I saw him live a few years back, had no clue he was in recovery, had no clue anything about his story. And he starts telling this story, and then he gets to this song and why he wrote this song when his daughter was born. And it has everything to do with facing our fears. Now, as this song plays, and this is the live version, by the way, this is not a studio recorded, this is a live version of Fear. As this song plays, I know practices are helpful for many of you. It gives you a way to actually get it out. So we have these notepads up here, these little post-it notes. If you want to write a fear down that you have been running from, a fear that you know you actually need to face, you need to deal with this fear, you need to run towards it, well, I invite you to come and write it down. And as you write, pray. Ask God to give you some strength and courage to run towards this so that you can be free. So during his next few minutes, this time is yours. You can stick them to the stage. We'll pray over them at the end of the evening. This time is yours. Justin Furstenfeld. He'll be here at Sober Open Mic Night on Thursday. Just kidding, just kidding. Anyway, all right, y'all. If you're new with us tonight, you should know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house to join me in the living room to share some of their experience, strength, and hope around the topic at hand, which, of course, tonight it is running towards your fear. So I can't wait for y'all to meet Amanda McKoy Flanagan. But before we welcome her up here, let me just say a few words because she's a new friend of mine. So I actually have some notes here. Amanda is the author, podcaster, and motivational speaker. Amanda recently released her award-winning inspirational memoir called Trust Yourself to Be All In, Safe to Love and Let Go. She's also the co-host of the podcast Soul Rising podcast. Check it out. She's also the co-founder of the nonprofit organization Castle Rock Clubhouse. It's a recovery clubhouse that serves as a meeting space for various 12-step programs. Amanda is passionate about sobriety, meditation, and spirituality. And I invited Amanda to be with us tonight to share how she runs towards these fears, how she faces these fears. And she's got a story around fear, and I can't wait for y'all to hear it. Please welcome my friend Amanda to the living room. Amanda, do you notice how it's darker at this service so you can't see the people as well? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for you.
I couldn't see them last time very well. Is it darker?
We're going to get her some bifocals.
It's just these lights. I don't
it's
know.
the
I can't
lights.
see anything.
All right, Amanda, we're going to jump into your story. Amanda has been sober, by the way. This is important to note, since 2006. Yeah, long time. 17 years. 17 years sober. But you and I both know you could be sober without a drink and you could still be an absolute disaster. So let's just start with this. You, 8 months sober, 8 months into your sober journey, your boyfriend Mike died of a drug overdose. And at that time, you told me that fear pushed you. And help us understand what you meant by fear pushing you.
So at that point, I had two options, I guess, right? I could run from fear and most likely relapse and maybe die as well. Or I could look fear right in the eye, understand what I was feeling, this intense loss, this intense pain, and let it motivate me to stay sober. And that's exactly what I did. I feel very blessed. I get this like anxiety inside that tells me that there's fear present. Sometimes fear doesn't like present right on the surface, right? Like we can't really tell what it is. It's like disguised. But my anxiety pushes me to identify what's going on underneath the surface. And typically it's always some kind of fear. So the fear for my own life and my own sobriety is what motivated me to keep doing the work. I think I was on like the 8th step at that point. And my sponsor at the time, her husband had died a few years earlier. So there are no coincidences why we're drawn to certain people. And I said, well, what do I do? And she said, well, jump into your steps even harder. So I tried to, but I just was in no space. I was in no headspace. And I was never really suicidal when I was out there. It just, like I said last time, like, I'm too masochistic for that. Like, I want to suffer. Like, I would rather be alive and just suffer instead of put myself out of my misery. And the thought of suicide at that point, after Mike died, it crossed my mind because I just did not know what to do with this. And at that point, I realized that I had to go back to step 3, which...
What is step 3, Amanda?
Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. And I realized that even though I was on my 8th step, I never really did a full, complete, like, 3rd step. And I believe, right, the only one we have to get 100% is step 1, right? I'm constantly working on all of them. But I didn't really have a great foundation for 3. I thought I did. I went, forward with 4 and 5 and all that. But at that point, I really had to dig deep and really turn it over and have some kind of faith that bad things are going to happen, right? we stop drinking, I'm not promised to, win gifts and prizes. It's just, if I don't take that first drink, I won't get drunk. Life is going to happen. How am I going to get through it? So I really found like a deep, solid foundation in step 3 through Mike's death.
Okay, so here you are, several years sober to the moment I'm leading you into. But you told me, and even now, several years sober, 17 years sober, and still your greatest fear is loss. Can you walk us through what happened in 2018 to kind of drive this deeper of this fear of loss?
Sure. So my brother Jeremy overdosed and died in March 2018. And his death really, really threw me for a loop. Like, really threw me for a loop. I actually had 5 family members die within 3 years, all very close. 2 aunts, my mother's first cousin, my first cousin, who I was very close with, and then 4 months later, my brother. And I never grieved any of the other ones. Like, that's what I learned through this journey, is that when Jeremy died, all the other grief came up, and I had no idea how to handle it, and I was laid out. I was in bed for like 3 months. All I could do was cry, take a bath, and go to AA meetings. Really, I'm really, really grateful that I was driven to, like, that's all. I felt safe there, and I knew I needed to be there, or else I could drink. And what happened was that fear of ever feeling that pain ever again told me insidiously, subconsciously, I didn't realize it was working on my subconscious to push my husband away. I had told him, I don't love you. I don't think I ever loved you. I think...
How many years married were you at this time?
We were married for 8 years, and I was 12 years sober. So I've had 3 emotional breakdowns in recovery, none of which I've had to drink over. I've hit the floor seriously 3 solid times. And then, other things here and there, but those were pretty major. And he was like, do you think maybe your brother's death maybe is playing a part in this? Your brother just died 5 months ago. Maybe there's something underneath this. And I had been sober, like I said, long enough to know that typically what's on the surface, right, from doing my steps and stuff, there's something underneath it. There's something deeper there. What's presenting on the surface typically isn't the problem. There's something else. So I was willing to go to counseling. I was already seeing a therapist for my grief, and we went and we sat, and I did also individual on my own therapy. He did his own too. And what I learned, what I unraveled, was this major fear of he's next, and I'm never going to feel that pain again. I'm never going to allow myself to be so incapacitated to the point that I can't even really take care of my kids. I mean, thank God my husband was amazing through all of that, but it was almost like a survival thing, I guess. I'm not really sure, but my brain, my defense mechanism said, you're next, and I'm never going to allow myself to feel that again. My husband's 12 and a half years older than me. He's a 9/11 first responder. He was a New York City fireman for 20 plus years. He has some respiratory illness, so he gets sick frequently. And that Jeremy's death really kind of made this story that I'd been telling myself for 38 years. I had no idea. Like, all this stuff started to make sense. My therapist helped me to see that I was suffering from generational family dysfunction. And my particular brand was this message passed down, probably to protect me, but didn't at this point, that everybody leaves you, everybody hurts you. So always protect yourself, always love a little less, and keep your distance. Because when the pain comes, maybe it will hurt a little bit less, right? And now I'm 12 years sober at this point, 13 years, as I'm in therapy. I was in therapy for 5 years for this, and it was just wild that this stuff can be there under the surface. And, there was some hints earlier on, but I just wasn't able to really grasp it until Jeremy's death just created this major spiritual awakening is what it was.
Yeah, isn't it straight that voice of fear is so subtle and so sneaky, and it always says the same thing. So right after that, or at some point after that, you went to the mountains in Crestone, Colorado.
Yes.
Tell us about Crestone.
So I love Crestone. I don't know if anybody's been to Crestone.
See, she mentioned Crestone to me, and I was like, "Where are you trying to say like Cresta Butte? Where is Crestone?"
Yeah, it's in
I've been here
Southwest
20
Colorado,
years.
the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. Very spiritual vortex in Colorado. I didn't know that the first time I was there, but I felt it. I knew there was something going on. And on like the second or third morning, I woke up and the back door to the bedroom was the mountains in the back, and the sun was rising, and it was just this really peaceful, beautiful moment. And I just felt like connected to something so much greater than me, and not just like spirit or God or a higher power. Like that's all part of it. It's all part of it. But it was just like nature and everything that's alive. I felt like one. I felt like I was one with that. And that is actually what made me feel safe enough to face the fear, like you said, over and over and over, because he gets sick often. He's sick right now, so I have to manage. I manage it. I use the tools, like you said. But in that moment, I felt like, you know what? I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be okay no matter what happens, and no matter what that looks like. That doesn't look like okay all the time, right? Doesn't mean life is going to always be great. But I'm going to be okay. My soul, my spirit is always going to find a way, because I have friends, I have support. There are professionals to help me no matter what comes down the pike. And the whole process really brought me to this incredible, like unshakable foundation of self-worth and self-love, and being rooted in myself, being rooted in I have me. I'm not dependent. Other people compliment. My husband compliments me now, not dependent on him to make me feel whole or okay. I have to give that to myself. I had to learn how to give that to myself.
So when you use the title in your book, your title is All In.
Yeah, trust yourself to be all in.
So I'm assuming you're referring to being all in with you.
Yes. So it might come off the bat like it's all in with others, but it's really all in with all of your emotions, fear being one of them, which is why this is a great topic to be a storyteller for, because if I don't fear whatever I'm going to feel, right? I try to avoid fear because I'm scared of what I'm going to feel. And maybe I won't be able to handle it. Maybe I'll drink. Maybe I'll hurt myself in another way, because I can definitely do that too. So it's about being all in with whatever comes up, being willing to embrace whatever emotion is going to come up, honor it, nurture it, whatever it is, accept it as it's a part of me, right? Love it, give it love, all that kind of stuff. And then that just creates a feeling of, I'm okay.
And how do you, what's like one practical way you do that? How do you embrace it? What is the thing you do to be all in? What's the practice?
Definitely meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation, 100%. And the days that I don't meditate, I'm a little off. Maybe not terrible, but like I'm not as solid or on the beam as the days when I do meditate. And I write. I like that you talked about writing. I do a lot of writing. I say some prayers. And I talk. I talk to God, my higher power, spirit. And I just wait to see what comes. I'll ask questions, or, I just try to open myself up as vulnerably as I can to accept whatever's going to come in, and to be able to meet it, to be able to greet it and say, okay, I hear you. I see this is it. This is what I'm dealing with. Like the truth. The truth is revealed in meditation. Like that's exactly what happens. And then it's up to me, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah, such good stuff. So in closing, for people out here who may be struggling with some fears that we need to face, people watching online, you people, and they're struggling with that fear. It's like we know we need to face it, but something's holding us back. What word of hope might you leave them with?
Just jump in. Just jump in. Like Ryan said, you're not going to die, and in fact, you will die if you don't face them. They're going to catch up with you at some point, right? Resentment is the number one offender. What's under resentment is fear. So it all goes back to fear. And when something comes up that you're stumbling or it's hard or whatever, have some patience with yourself and practice self-compassion, like outrageous radical self-compassion, and just keep going in. You might have to step out for a minute, but it's going to come back. You know, it's always going to be there. Go back in when you can. God bless you. Go back in when you can, and each time you go in, you're going to be able to go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, and more is going to be revealed. And every time you come out of it, you're going to trust yourself to be able to go back into it a little bit more deeply. So just do it. Just do
I love it. All right, Amanda, are you going to stick around for a little bit if people want to connect with you?
Yeah.
And if you're online, or even if you're not online, if you're here tonight and you want to connect with her, I think we have an image for the screen. There it is. Hey, if you want to buy her book, you can get it on Amazon. Trust Yourself to Be All In. And there is her website, her Insta, her Facebook, and her email website.
Is that my website, Bob? Yeah, that's just my website.
It's all on there. Y'all can screenshot
Just
it
all
and
my
do it
name.
that way. Amanda, thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing some of your story with us.
Thank
so
you for
good to
letting me
have
be
you
here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Amanda McKoy Flanagan, thank you very much. And now, the way we close things down here at Free, if you're new with us, we do it very similarly to how we open. We open with celebrations. We celebrate with one another. And we close with the heartaches, because I told y'all at the beginning we don't ignore the hard stuff. And so what we know every week here in this community, and really, let's be honest, every community, we have this tendency to carry burdens, and we try to do it alone, and we really suck at doing it alone. That's why we have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you have a burden that you're carrying and you want some prayer, encouragement, uplifting, I encourage you to just raise up your hand. Darren will bring you a mic. Paige will bring you a mic. If you're online, just drop your heartache in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, and we'll join with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
This Tuesday, my 25-year-old nephew, Derek, decided to take his own life. And it's been hard, but, you know, they say what doesn't hurt, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I firmly believe that.
Prayers for you and the family, man. It's a tough loss. But glad you're here. Hold on, I don't think your mic is on. There's a little switch on it. There you go. Hold on, can we get, sorry Gina, can we get her a different mic? Is this one not on, fellas? Maybe we're down to one mic. Darren, can she use that mic?
All right, can you guys hear me? Hi. Okay. I just want to say God bless you, and I appreciate that share because I'm here with my family tonight. My husband lost his battle with alcoholism, and he took his life on the same day as your nephew. So we are, you know, yeah, I'm sorry too. I am sorry too. So anyway, thank you guys.
Gina, I'm so glad you're here tonight. I'm glad you're part of this community, and your family, you'll recognize them in their orange shirts, remembering Chris. And I hate that y'all are in this club that no one wants to be in together, but glad you're here. Prayers
Hey y'all, my name's Amanda. I'm very sorry for your losses. My cousin lost a battle to addiction 1 week ago, and so just lift her up, and I'm praying for the sick and suffering.
Prayers for you and your family, Amanda. I'm so sorry.
My name's Derek. I'm always lifting up my father, who still needs it, but it's funny how God works as we pray every week for him, and he's in rehab right now. I just got a call,
Right.
so
That's good news, man. Continued prayers for him.
I'm Chase. 2 days after I hit my year, my grandpa passed away on Wednesday. And yeah, so my family's pretty hurt. I am too, so yeah.
Chase, prayers for you, man. Prayers for your family. Thank you for sharing that with us. Glad you're here.
Nothing too small.
10 seconds. We've got the second row, Darren.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I've really missed my son. He doesn't want to talk to me or hang out with me, and it's killing me.
Prayers for you, Sarah, and that heartache. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Eric's going to join me up here for some heartaching.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Paige. Sorry your mic broke. It wasn't your fault. It was a battery thing. Eric, thank you for joining me up here, brother. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And I just want to take a moment and just acknowledge, you heard it the same I did, 3 significant losses right in a row in this community. And we get the reminder that this disease of addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And it always seeks to take life. That's why our mission here is breaking the silence of addiction. So let's join with our online people.
Jim asked us to pray. Please pray for my friend Michelle. She needs a liver transplant. Can't get on the list for 6 months.
All right, Jim. Prayers for Michelle and the family. Kevin says, let's pray for all those whom fear constantly preys on us. It is a constant fear of mine. Kevin, nicely stated. We're praying for all those who fear preys on us and that constant fear. Kevin, glad you're part of this community. Thank you for lifting that up. And Eric, we only had 2 tonight, man.
All right.
You only had to read 1.
Perfect.
I'm glad you're here, though. Thank you for joining me up here. Listen, y'all, I say it every week. One of the ways we keep our mission of breaking the silence of addiction thriving in this community and much broader is through your generous giving. And if you call this place home, if this is your tribe, your people, your community, if this is your home, we really encourage generous giving here. We are funded by you, the people, and I know many of you have made that a spiritual practice in your life. It's become a spiritual practice, and not just a spiritual practice, but a sacrificial practice. And we take this opportunity to say thank you, and without that, we truly don't exist. And I will also tell you this, try to give you an update of where we are with our Home at Last campaign, because y'all do know in November, we are purchasing this building, $1.3 million all in. Yeah, this is our new permanent home. So that's happening. We set a goal. And by the way, this building appraises at $3.77 million. We're getting it 1.3 all in. So a great deal for us. Where we are right now, we're trying to raise 1.3. We're at 850,000. So we do have some room to grow, if you will. So if you've been waiting to give, you thought, I'm going to give to that campaign. I'm just going to kind of wait and see where it ends. Well, now would be a good time to jump in if you've been praying about it and considering it. And we still are waiting to hear from a couple more grants, because that's always a waiting game for those of you that have been in the grant writing world. And we're hopeful. And we got some room to go. So if you want to give tonight, and 2 things happen. So we've also got to keep like the general thing going while we do this Home at Last campaign. If you want to give tonight, there's a giving box just over here by these doors. It cleverly says giving on it. And there's another giving box just outside these doors. And if you're the digital type giver because you don't have cash like me, that's cool. There's 3 ways to do it. And by the way, if you want to give to the Home at Last campaign, you have to go to the giving button and click Home at Last. But you can simply download the app. It's free to download. It's called Free Spiritual Community. All of our content, messages, storytellers are on there. And you can click give. You can do the same thing on the website, freespiritualcommunity.com. You can give one time, weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. Or text the number on your screen. It walks you through a simple set of instructions. And your generous giving grows the mission here at Free, which is breaking the silence of addiction, creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. So thank you all for that. Shall we go out with a prayer? I invite you to open your hands and welcome in the things you've heard tonight. The pain, the suffering, and the joy, and the overcoming. Because all of it belongs. And when we open our hands, it's a sign of being open to God moving in our midst. Spirit blowing through us and those around us and in this space. And we'll go out with what's called the 3rd step prayer.
Amanda just mentioned it, but if you don't know it, it's on your screen, and we'll say it together, and it goes like this. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. My free brothers and sisters, may you experience all kinds of grace and peace this week as you run towards your fears. And we will see you next time.